Hi there, I'm Brian Goulet of the Goulet Pen Company and Ink Nouveau, and today I'm going to talk about how to install a LAMY cartridge into a LAMY fountain pen. I have a LAMY pen here. This is a LAMY Vista. It's identical to the LAMY Safari, very similar to the LAMY All-Star. This is, a very popular pen, and because it's clear, I can demonstrate what I'm going to try to do really well here. The LAMY Vista, just like all of the LAMY pens with the exception of the LAMY 2000, uses a cartridge or a converter. This is a Z24 converter. This is what's ideal for when you want to use bottled ink. But if you're not into bottled ink, or you just are kind of starting out and you want to start out with cartridges, cartridges are a convenient way to kind of get going in the whole fountain pen thing. So basically, you take the back of the pen off. You saw me remove the cap earlier. That cap isn't really relevant to what we're doing here. And the way that this pen works is that it has this black part inside, which normally you can't see, but you can with the Vista. And that's why I wanted to use this pen. That's the feed, and that delivers the ink from the cartridge down to the nib, which then touches to the page. And through capillary action, it draws ink all the way through and gets, basically, this is a delivery system to get ink from here to your paper. Now this cartridge is proprietary to LAMY. It's only going to fit LAMY pens. And likewise, the LAMY pen will only fit LAMY cartridges, or you have to use a proprietary LAMY converter. That's one of the kind of annoying things about some of the pen brands out there, is that they have these proprietary things. And the reason that I personally don't prefer cartridges is because you're limited to the selection of LAMY inks, which there's only a handful of them. But if you want the convenience, and that's the most important thing to you, you can just select from one of their colors. This concept is going to be the same no matter which color you select. So here's the cartridge. It's got a pretty decent volume of ink as far as cartridges go. But the end that you're going to want to be concerned about is this end. Now it is sealed up with some plastic on the inside there, and that seal is what you're going to need to break in order to get the ink flowing through the pen. And the way that you do that is there is a post on the back of the feed inside the pen here. And all you really do is take a fresh new cartridge, insert it into the pen, and then you'll give it a good push. And I'll show you here in a little greater detail exactly what's happening as I push this thing and insert it in place. You can see here where the cartridge is hitting that back of the post, and then I want to push it. I want to give it some good force, and as I push it, you can see that it's going to break the seal. Oh, it's giving me some good resistance. There we go. So I had to give it a good amount of force. It broke the seal, really kind of stepped down in there, and now the ink is going to start to work its way through the feed. You can see here that it's already started. Now with a cartridge, you may have to wait a good 30 seconds or a minute when you have a brand new clean pen with no ink or water or anything in here, because the ink has to kind of naturally work its way through the feed. Because everything here is dry. And because the fountain pen works with capillary action, it's got to have ink at the tip in order to draw it from the back. So it may take a little bit to work its way through. Naturally, you can see it's kind of doing that now. What you're seeing here with the ink kind of going around the feed like that, the feed has these fins on it that act as kind of a regulator, so that when you're writing with the pen, whether you write fast or you write slow, there will always be ink available here in the feed to be able to deliver it to the nib. So that's not anything unusual. You normally don't see this on other pens. If you want to speed up the process here, I still don't have ink coming to the tip. What you can do is just take the converter and squeeze the back of it a little bit. And that will kind of force some ink down through. You can see here, as I'm squeezing it, I'm kind of forcing it through. Now if you're using a converter to fill your pen with ink, you don't have to coax it down through because you're filling through the nib and feed in the first place, and it will already be saturated. But in this case, I've got to kind of coax it down there. There we go. And it's getting pretty well saturated now. Now you don't want to go too crazy with it, because if you force too much, it can actually start to drip out of the pen. I'm probably in good shape now. If you don't want to squeeze it, you can just set the pen down, let the ink kind of naturally work its way through. But once you do, you'll have ink delivered to your tip of your nib, and you'll be good to go. Once you have your cartridge installed and you're writing with it, great, you're going to enjoy your pen. Let's say you get halfway through your cartridge and you decide, oh, I want to change colors. What do I do? Well, if you got half a cartridge, you may wonder, hey, can I just kind of take this thing out, set it aside, pick it up later, put it in? Well, not really, because if you think about it, you essentially have an open container at this point. You've already punctured the end of that cartridge, and if you just leave it sitting out, the ink is water-based, and the water is going to evaporate over a couple of days, and you're going to be left with a dry cartridge. So you really can't do that. You can, if you want to, seal up the end of this. I've heard of people using hot glue with some decent success, maybe some other kind of inert substance that you can use to seal up the end, and then you can reuse a cartridge in the future if you want, or you can just throw it out, or you can clean it out and maybe reuse it, refill it with ink with an ink syringe if you want to do that. But you can't just pull the cartridge off, leave it sitting aside for a long time, and then pick it back up and reuse it again. If your pen runs out of ink when you're using a cartridge, no problem. If you're using the same color cartridge, just pop it out, take a new cartridge, pop it in, and your feed will already be saturated with ink, so you should be able to just kind of keep on going. It's the only thing is you need to change colors, then you need to clean the pen out. Okay, I have a separate video on that. It's relatively easy to do. You just want to make sure that if you have a pen with one color already in it, if you stick a different color in there, it's going to kind of mix and get all weird. So unless you really want that effect, you want to clean it out in between changing colors. Now if you're not changing colors and you want to just kind of regularly maintain your pen, it's not a bad idea to clean it maybe once every 3 weeks, once every 4 weeks, something like that, even if you're using the same color, because just the act of writing with the pen is going to get paper fibers, it's going to attract dust and things like that that'll clog up the feed eventually. So it's not a bad idea just to clean the pen out every so often, even if you're using the same color ink. If you have any other questions about how to use a LAMY cartridge or anything else with fountain pen related for that matter, just hit me up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, my blog. Thanks for spending time with me today, and write on.